So we have Vineet with us. He is joining.
Hi.
Welcome, Vineet.
Hi.
I hope all,
Nice to be here.
yeah, pleasure. I hope all our clients are doing well and everyone is doing well. They are taking good care of themselves and yourselves and your loved ones in this time of lockdown and crisis. Really hope that this lockdown gets over at earliest so that we all can go out. Now, before we start the webinar and questions with Vineet, I'll take 2 minutes of yours. I'll tell you about this webinar which we are doing, the series of webinars which we started in the last 7-10 days. We have been getting phenomenal feedback from our clients. Now, the objective of doing this webinar are two. First, when an investor invests in a fund, it's not about just the fund name. When you're investing in DSP midcap, it's just not about DSP midcap and its performance in 6 months or 1 month or 12 months. There's a man behind that fund. There's a team. There's a thought process, and he's betting on different stories and different ideas. A lot of time, those ideas take time. So it's always good to know that who is the guy behind that particular fund. So with this web series, what we are trying to do is try to take the fund manager closer to the client so that they have some idea. Secondly, it's also about to get some insights on the uncertainty which is there, that what does the fund manager thinks about it, what's his view on the equity market, so that we all can structure our portfolio accordingly. So I'll start with the webinar with Vineet. Vineet, on behalf of Alpha Capital and all our clients, would like to welcome you. And yeah, and
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure, Mukesh. And my wishes to all your clients. Hope they're all safe. They're taking good care of themselves. And I think it's
absolutely,
better to stay home and be safe.
absolutely, absolutely. Before I start asking questions, I have in the panel today Akhil, who is a colleague and partner in the firm. We'll just give a brief introduction about Vineet. Now, Vineet is, one of the best, in fact, the most consistent fund manager in the mid cap and small cap space. He's the head of equities for DSP mutual funds, run DSP mid cap and DSP small cap. In fact, DSP mid cap is one fund which is one of the most consistent fund. It has been in our model portfolio for a very long time. My personal money is also Vineet invested in with you, and I have been very happy. His fund, DSP Small Cap, is completing 10 years in June this year. So congratulations, Vineet, on this. So we'll start with the questions, Vineet. The first question is, about the COVID uncertainty. There's a complete lockdown, and we don't know what is going to happen. So a single biggest question in the mind of everyone is that what's going to happen to the COVID? When can we really step down? When do you think the crisis is getting over? So over to you, Vineet.
Yeah, thank you, Mukesh. And hi, Akhil.
Hi.
So, yeah, so I think this is the most pertinent question which all of us are trying to sort of seek answers to, and including the corporates we are discussing with, including our fraternity guys. I think this is something which is we have not seen ever in the past. This is something which is so unprecedented that to take a very definite view, it's going to be a bit of a difficult task. But let me give some of my thoughts. So, if we just look at the sequence of events which has occurred post the spread of COVID across different countries, some countries have seen containment and some countries are trying to come back to normal. So that actually raises some amount of hopes. That's number one, that at some point we will also reduce the kind of spread which we are seeing, and hopefully we will come back to normalcy. But the time between now and the time between we reach normalcy, I think there is a big river which one has to cross, and which is actually filled with a lot of uncertainty. Now, to just say that India, if you look at the lockdowns across different countries, we've had, for very right reasons, the almost the strictest amount of lockdown is what we have seen. And on the other hand, if you look at the stimulus package, our stimulus package is hardly anything to talk about. So from that point itself, to uh, realize that in terms of the recovery also, given this backdrop, the thought which comes to our mind is that the recovery is going to be a bit more difficult, a bit more challenging, and a bit more, backdated is what I feel. And that I also say because we have still not seen any kind of stabilization of the new cases as far as we are concerned. So I would say that it is first very important to see containment of the new cases. Next week and week beyond that is going to be critical because the gradual opening up of economy has started, and we'll have to see whether we are not that there's no more spreading because of the lockdown being lifted. If that were to happen, and if we have to further look for extension, then I think the whole recovery assumptions what we have in mind will keep becoming worse and worse. So right now, I think if I were to generally think about whatever we read and whatever we interact with the companies and our own calculation, the judgment is that if we were to start normalizing from the September month, and we see gradual activities picking up and no further deterioration in the cases, then I think as far as the country is concerned, anywhere between 2 to 5% negative GDP estimates. I mean, 5% is on the higher side, but I believe that that is also something which one can't rule out if the things become worse. So I think to that extent, things can sort of deteriorate. And one more aspect which I would like to touch upon when we are talking of this COVID thing is most of the emerging market countries have seen very sharp cuts to the corporate earnings, and we have not seen as much. So why I brought this point up at this juncture is I think as we see as we are hoping to normalize as an economy, there are these pitfalls which we'll have to keep in mind. The spread has to not happen again. The extension of lockdown should not happen. And third and foremost, very important, is when we are thinking of normalcy, it is most likely that the new normal is not likely to be like the old normal immediately, because we have seen humongous amount of job losses which has happened. Wherever job losses has not happened, there are wage cuts, salary cuts. India, by the way, a large part of whatever growth was seen because of the consumption trend. So my sense is that we may take some time post normalization as well. So I think two important points to keep in mind: how are we normalizing? Are we keeping the track? And post normalization, how are we getting back? So there also I feel a bit of a challenge. So to summarize the first question here, Mukesh, I believe that it will this year in a way looks a bit challenging from that viewpoint, and uh, one has to navigate a bit cautiously because of these two important aspects. How do we normalize, and post normalization, do we see is the new normal going to be like the old normal, which I believe is slightly going to be challenged. And lastly, when we finally are out of it, probably the fiscal deficit numbers may also go beyond what we are anticipating today. So hopefully what has kept us positive, the low interest rate in the economy. So those things will be the further worries to fight with going forward. So I think the overall thought around the COVID and the economy is what I just summarized.
Hi, Vineet. Pleasure having you here.
Hi.
Hi. In fact, my next question will make you fall into your forte only, which is related to equity market. So like you said that there are very less stimulus package which government is providing to come out of this COVID scenario. So where do you see the equity market going from here? Is there still a downside from here, or the worst is over from here, will go the northward only? What is your say on the equity market?
See, I would say that first and foremost, the last movements which we have seen in the equity markets has generally confused all of us, because if I were to just think about how the equity markets behave in the short term, long term we know that they tend to follow the core economic growth, the corporate earnings growth. But in the short term, what does the market look at? The market looks at visibility of growth, may not be necessarily the growth itself. And in the short term, the markets are driven by the flows. Now, what has happened is that if I were to think about the visibility of growth aspect, the visibility of growth has not improved at all. In fact, if anything, it has further worsened. And the other aspect, which is the flows, I would say that the big outflow which we had seen in the month of March, those pressures are out. So what has actually led to probably this market rise is there is a catch up to the global rally which has happened. But bear in mind, global rally has happened because globally there is much more stimulus package which has got announced. India has still not probably done a justice to what we ideally should be doing. So I think we've just in a way caught up. We've just seen the abatement of flows that has led to this market coming up. But if I were to fundamentally think and believe that there are a lot of still pitfalls ahead of the curve, there could be numbers which could disappoint. Uh, Remember this, whatever 14, 15 Nifty companies have announced the numbers. Already there has been, wherever there have been cases of disappointments, the deviation has been large enough. So I'm saying this is the March quarter, much more severe impact will be seen in the June quarter. So I would say fundamentally, the equity markets, while it may still move in line with the flows and what's happening globally, but my sense is that we are not, the worst is yet not over. We could be up there for surprises in terms of the corporate earnings growth, and there's a chance that markets may react to these realities, and markets, there's a chance that market may again probably retest the previous lows. And one more thing which I would like to add here is the banking sector, which is, or the liquidity in the system, which is of very critical thing right now. I think that is also something which is a cause of worry. Uh, unless and until we see that some of the ailing segments like the MSME, the small businesses, informal sector, the real estate, the NBFCs, they are not adequately laced with liquidity, and liquidity doesn't flow in the system. I would say the risk to the economic growth is going to be there. The risk to the corporate earnings growth will be there, and that is going to have its own amount of panic on the markets per se. I'll take one more minute. Sorry, I'm being very long in my answers, and
No, it's
please
all
guide
fine.
me
No,
if I need to cut it
Ravi.
short. But we were thinking of what type of levels an investor should think about on the markets. And while I said that in the short term, it can be linked to flows, and hence the fundamentals would really not match. But just to bring in a fundamental perspective, I think we have traded in the range of 15 to 20 times on a 1 year forward basis earnings. If we were to think about FY20 earnings, uh, it is just about, let's say, 500 rupees is the Nifty earnings. And if we were to assume it is going to go down in FY21, but if we assume that it remains 500, then that 15 times is 7,500, which is a low range. High range we will not talk now, but I'm saying that's the low range. Now, can it breach the low range? Can it go to 13, 12 times? I mean, that's something which is very extraordinary. If we see that the economy remains shut for even longer, if things worsen, we have to take a very big step. I think those will be the situations which can cause. But by and large, to me, at the lows, probably the previous lows are the base as well, if one have to fundamentally think of the market levels.
Sure. Thanks a lot for Vineet for answering on this. Now, what is happening, Vineet, is there's a lot of confusion around. As you rightly said, in a way, I agree with you completely, and all our investors will also agree that the uncertainty is huge. The economy is in turmoil, and the current run-up is more driven by the liquidity. So there's a confusion in the mind of equity investors. What should they be doing? Like they already have some money invested, and they may be at a loss right now. In fact, most of them will be at a loss. Now, should they come out of equity right now and let's say, or let's say take out part of the equity investment, keep it aside, and when the things improve or things fall, they should come back, or for the existing investment, they should not do anything and keep buying with every fall. So, what should be the strategy which an investor should, follow? We keep getting these questions that, because there's so much of uncertainty and this may go longer, why not step aside for a while? There may be better opportunities in the future to enter.
Yeah, so I think it's a very valid question, and I think most investors basically are in a state of confusion right now. So see, the way I would sort of try to look at this situation and try to address this. So first of all, there is no one generic answer for all type of investors. By and large, I would say that investors who have sort of maintained their uh, allocation to equities depending upon their risk profile and all that, I think they should not be worried. The other thing is that if I were to think about, when I am investing the investors' money into equities, what am I looking at? I'm looking at what will basically give me the returns. The returns will be a function of whether these companies which I'm investing into will grow, and they will basically over a period of next 4-5 years or 10 years meet our generic guidelines of growing at a rate higher than the overall corporate rate and keep working with very high capital efficiency. So now broadly to think about these companies doing well over a long period of time is fine. That is fine. The important thing to think about today is, are these companies, how are these companies going to navigate these difficult times, and are they going to really be the ones who will not only survive but become stronger in this crisis and grow larger than what we had anticipated when the growth comes back. Now, the factor which we have not under our control is the timelines when the recovery takes place. But the factor which we have under our control is that these companies have time and again demonstrated in the past as well that during a bad patch, these companies, they fundamentally they strategize well, they have stronger balance sheet and are able to survive and become stronger in the crisis. So they don't allow any crisis to go waste. So by and large, if we have portfolio of such companies, I think investors who are invested in such companies will eventually see light at the end of the tunnel. Now, investors who are overboard in equities, investors who have gone much beyond their capacities, for them necessarily it also is a case where they need to step back. They need to balance out their asset allocation, if need be cut equities, because I would not say that it's not something where we have the worst is over. We may still see up and down, we may still see volatility in the next 1 year. And I would say that just as I said that for good companies, they don't allow any crisis to go waste. Same applies to investors. Investors with the right mindset, with a long-term objective, and with a strong ability to face this turmoil, I think they shouldn't also allow this crisis to go waste. In the next 1 year, as they see more volatility, I think it is an opportune time to keep gradually increasing into equities is my judgment. And the call which I am taking is that these companies where we have invested, they will grow and deliver return. And the call where we have no control is the timeline. So I think for me to give a definite timelines to the investor is not going to be right. But for me to very strongly say that don't worry, these companies are going to survive and grow, and we have patience, I think that will work. Just a small example, in case of our small cap fund, which was earlier known as DSP BlackRock Microcap Fund, uh, in the peak of 2008, January 2008, when the market had seen peak. And sorry, just that correction, the fund actually was launched in 2007. So it is completed 13 years. For the first 3 years, it was closed-ended, and it became open-ended in 2010. So 2008 January, investors, those who had invested in this fund at a peak, they had not seen any returns till 2013. So if I were to just draw a CAGR from 2008 peak up to 2013, there was absolutely zero returns. And 2014, 1 year, the CAGR from that peak actually worked up to 13 point some percent. So, the equity investment is all about patience. Equity investment is all about where is one invested, and time is something which is not under anyone's control. But investors need to exercise patience, just how they exercise patience they used to exercise patience in case of real estate earlier. Now, so people are not investing in real estate, but I'm saying that's how the investment in equities has to be looked at.
Thank you, Vineet, for answering this question. In fact, my next question is related to, will narrow down the equity investment to mid and small cap, which is your a bigger forte. Now, in this, we see that definitely in the COVID times, the mid and small cap have come down significantly. But even before that, before COVID times, in fact, after January 2018, there has been no return into the mid and small cap space. So what is the reason behind it, both sides?
Yeah, so I think the example which I gave of 2008 anyways is anyway helpful to think about the returns. But so see, I think you are absolutely right. What also happened previous to 2018 was a real frenzy which investors showed to get into the category. We had shut our fund completely in 2017 beginning itself because we were very worried about the valuations, and many investors kept shouting at us that why have you shut the fund, you can't do this, we want to invest. But where we were coming from was the fact that from CY 14 to CY 17 there was such a massive rally which took place in the equity. Nothing wrong about it, but what was wrong is that there was a lot of excessive optimism which had got created in the category. And when I used to look at companies which fundamentally they don't are rated, they are not rated very highly, even they started getting obscene valuations, and which was very concerning when we looked at those data points. And we felt that investors investing now are going to sort of see, first of all, they are coming with a very high hopes and expectation on back of a last 3 years data point. So the expectations running in their mind are very high. And at these levels of optimism and these excesses, it's very difficult to generate returns. And we had a strong feeling that these excesses need to, at some point, has to correct. So we took the call to shut the fund, and through time we saw in CY 18 towards that September IL&FS crisis, I think even before that the mid caps and small caps had started giving up the gains, and it only kept worsening as we saw a series of events. At some point in time it gave some fillip, but I think by and large you are right, we have seen a disappointment. So I would say the reason for that one is that these excesses are getting corrected. The extra optimism which we had seen, those are sort of now getting also cut from the valuations, and which is where when now in the first week of April or towards the end of March, when we saw the valuations of the small cap universe had corrected significantly, while we felt that the recovery is going to take time, but from the valuation perspective, it is making a lot of sense for me to go and allocate money to some of the finest companies. And hopefully when we are in a normalized scenario, we should see the returns. Now, coming to your question and giving you a very specific answer. So I think investors who are looking at the small and mid cap category, first and foremost, we will need, in terms of the returns expectation, I would still say that there would be a waiting game. We will have to see the normalization of the economy taking place, and once we see the normalization taking place, growth returning back, visibility improving, that's the time when the the full-fledged recovery in the small and mid cap should take place. So I would say that there's still a certain amount of waiting which is required to exercise in the small and mid cap space.
Thanks, Vinny, for answering that. Now, in the last 2 years, the small cap has fallen more than 50%. The mid caps are down, 35%. We have been recommending our clients in our portfolio to have, follow asset allocation and the discipline, of investing across different market capitalization. Now, with the COVID uncertainty, there are different questions which keep coming to us. One common thought process which comes is that when the market recovery comes, the first recovery will come in the large cap space. So should we move out of small cap now and move to have a higher weight, or move towards large cap, or sell small cap and move towards large cap, and when the recovery comes later on, we can again come in the small and mid cap space, or for that matter even the SIPs which are going, should they be happening more in the large cap? And so that is what's your thought on these?
Yeah, so I think fundamentally this seems to be a sound thought process, and I think very reasonably it should follow this matrix what you said. But when we practically look at the movements of these large cap, mid cap, small cap, the time gap between the performance as it starts performing, the time gap is pretty narrow, and it would not actually give the opportunity for the investors to really switch very quickly between these capitalization ranges. It is still, I would say, the lag between large cap and mid cap is still very narrow. Probably between large cap and small cap is slightly, it is more lagged in terms of how the performance catches up. So I would say there could be an opportunity where you may think about if we have that ability to switch very quickly between the large caps and small caps. But I would say between large caps and mid caps, the time lag is pretty narrow, is the practical experience, and hence it will not be a great exercise to do so. People who have got aligned to a mid cap type of investment, please remember the mid cap and small cap is a very specific is a very specific nature of investment which one is participating in. It is actually a participation in India's entrepreneurism, which is at a very high level across many sectors. India is not a commodity company. India is not a technology company, but we are spread across many segments, and in every segments we have great management who have done wonderful job. So people who are attuned to this type of investment, where they are looking at businesses which are, let's say, small size, mid size, and they have potential to grow while it may take time, these one should try to stick to those philosophies and be with those philosophies, provided he's done the asset allocation right. If he's really gone overboard, I would definitely want him to cut the exposure and not be overboard. But if one is rational in his approach and has a very balanced allocation, I would say he should continue and not be worried, because he'll find that as I said, the time lag between the performances to catch up is becoming narrower, and may not be possible. So for few who have got wrongly got into this category, not knowing the volatility, because frankly there are a lot of new investors starting I think FY16 onwards, because small cap had started rallying. So for those, I think, who have got into this and are not ready to see the volatility, definitely it makes a case to move the money out to the large cap, or probably large and mid cap type of a composition, where I think those funds will still do well in case of a recovery.
Thank you, Vineet. Vineet, in fact, for our client, when we create a portfolio, equity portfolio especially, so we spread the money in large cap, mid cap, and small cap, and even in multi cap also. So taking a risk up till mid cap is okay, but when we make investment into a small cap, the 5-year return become negative, even zero. So the overall portfolio return of equity is not great. So is it worth keeping small cap in the overall allocation of the equity portfolio, or should we limit the risk of equity portfolio up till only mid cap sector?
So, in fact, in my previous answer, I just alluded to some of these facts. So, I would say that small caps should be is meant for a specific type of an investor who's ready to take this type of a risk. Now, there are a lot of investors who really look at private equity and VC type of investment. I would say small caps to some extent actually matches that particular philosophy. It is looking at companies, businesses which are small today but can grow multifold. But just like in case of private equity or other unlisted type of investors are ready to spend a lot of time seeing the business grow and nurture their investment. I think that's how the small cap has to be. So I would again reiterate that it is applicable for investors with that mindset. And I would be very frank in my view that investors who don't have that mindset definitely should not be part of the small cap universe, is what I would agree.
Thank you, Vineet, for being so upfront. I really appreciate. I think that makes a lot of sense because if someone who can't handle that kind of risk, it really doesn't make sense to go through that pain. And
Right.
I think if someone is looking for a private equity or VC, similar kind of investment risk and reward, I think small cap is a better replacement.
And let me, sorry, Mukesh, let me
Yep.
add. Sorry, I will take.
No,
I don't know.
please. You
I
have
might
all the
over time.
time, please.
So,
We all are here to listen to you.
some things come to my mind. So I'll tell you one more aspect about the VC and the small cap type of an investment. Now, see what we have done, and probably I think you will get it addressed through your future, the questions ahead which you have. But by and large, as a philosophy, what we do is that we have, uh, in case of small caps, for all the companies really, my thought process is that to go back in history and check how the companies have been performing. So we look a lot into their historical performances and checklist and 10 15 years track record to establish whether the company will be does have the ability to stay afloat in difficult times, because that's what we want. And good times, so anyone can actually stay afloat, but in difficult times is something which we are looking at. So small caps listed space, to some extent, when I said that I equated it with a VC, I would say it is still uh, superior than a VC, because you have historical track record to look at. You have 10, 15, 20, 50, 60 years history to look at. And the chances of committing errors, you can reduce those chances versus the other unlisted type of investment where the kind of information may be limited. The people have not seen the managements run the show for many years, and these are typically only fair weather types of investment where in good times the people keep assigning money, and the reference value is the last valuation which is given. So I think those are the pitfalls which investors are still willing to undertake that risk, but not ready to undertake risk in a listed space, because every day he's getting to see the mark to market NAV fall, and that is causing him indigestion. So I would say that this is in fact less riskier as compared to that. Only thing is that it gives you the tapes every day, which causes that volatility. Otherwise, it is pretty decent type of investment to have for those type of investors.
Thank you, Vineet. Talking about the information, I think last 2 years have been amazing years. The kind of balance sheet, management and corporate governance issues which we have seen is crazy. The Manpasand issue, the DHFL, the Yes Bank, and it really raises a lot of question in terms of the compliance and the corporate governance standard in India. And again, a view which people carry a lot of time, when we meet, people, is that the compliance in India per se is not so high standard. Now, then, why should we be investing in the mid and small cap? Or per se, it's a question for you in the sense, when we know that the compliance and corporate governance is an issue in India, how do you ensure that the stocks which you're picking don't go through that kind of challenges in future?
Yeah, so I will give some data point also, but let me talk about the corporate governance and the way we have looked at this particular aspect. So I think right from beginning, ever since at least I have started managing the small caps earlier and then the mid cap, uh, I've been very particular about the corporate governance aspect, because as I said, we are ready to invest in a company and ready to be part of that business through rough phases and through good phases, but we would not want to compromise or not be want to be part of the business if there are any governance issues, or there are any management or uh, uh, what do you say, the cash embezzlement or any other issues of those sort. So we've been when I say that we've been very careful, we actually as a part of the philosophy, we like to look at the company's many years of history, because if we look at many years history, that actually gives a lot of data point to reconcile and say that the companies are very stable. They have they probably are not they are running on a very high governance standards, and which is where that if they are running for many years, uh, they have sort of withstood these tough times. Otherwise, what happens is that in bad times, some of these companies who use accounting jugglery, they actually go down under. So I think studying the past makes a lot of sense. Beyond that, we look at a lot of the analytics and ratios which raises red flags in terms of whether the companies have been doing right type of accounting, or are there any other issues which the company uh, which otherwise in normal circumstances is very difficult to go by. Third thing is that we don't go by the just the narratives of the management. So when the management speaks about the future, management is always going to speak about a bright future, but going and checking the past actually gives a very reasonable connection as to what the management has done and what is talking about the future. Beyond that, we have specific filters for bare minimum debt to equity in the books. We don't like high leverage companies. We have filters around the cash flow generation. We have filters around the dividend paying track record of the company. We have filters around how much have they diluted to grow through many years. So if they have not diluted, that's a positive ratings for us. We have filters around the working capital efficiency with which the companies are running, and most importantly, we have filters around the ROCE of the business. So being a Marwadi, we should know that uh, when you are giving 1 paisa to anyone, you are asking bhai kitna return dega. So whether be it fixed income, for me in equity, the way to calculate that is the ROEs or the ROCE, and we need to have a very reasonable threshold for that, and a long period threshold. It's not 1 year or 2 year, long period of threshold, which means that the companies in picture, they are very much they are very much conscious of their capital allocation. They are not misallocating, and they are sort of being very much cautious with our money. So I think those allow us to eliminate some of the potential pitfalls, select some of the companies which we believe potentially can grow manifold without any corporate governance issues, and hence for us to remain invested for 3-4 years. If you look at the portfolio turnovers, it's just about 20-30%. So which means our average holding period is 3 to 4 years. So to be in such companies with higher concentration, it's only possible if we have done some of these exercise, and that's how we try to avoid the corporate governance issue. Now, besides whatever we do, since last year we've also in our team added a forensic analyst role, where the job of that person is to just work around the forensics of the company, try to figure out as much public information, and try to see if there are any red flags which if those come to our light, then we will immediately sell off the name. And in the past also, we might have invested, and we also might have got caught in a wrong governance type of company. We immediately take the decision to cut the position and move away our investments. Beyond these corporate governance, the capital allocation is also very critical. So even where we see that the capital allocation decisions are wrong and not in sync with how the businesses will generate high ROC, then that also is a trigger point for us to exit. So I think we placed a very high importance on recognizing these ahead of time, so as to eliminate these errors as far as possible. And when I said that I'm going to talk about one data point, we had done one exercise in case of our small cap and mid cap fund, that since the beginning, in of the companies where we had invested, in how many companies have we seen more than 50% fall for whatever reasons, and we might have exited, not exited those names. So when we did that analysis, it came up that we had done about roughly 300 companies investment at different points in time. So 300 names is what we had basically invested into through our portfolio, and there were 15 companies where we had lost more than 50%. So which means the ratio was about 5%. So I would say that we were able to keep these pitfalls pretty low. We would like to further improvise on this ratio, and which is where all these efforts which we are taking towards these aspects. Now, please bear in mind, uh, for every one good company, there will be 10 bad companies in the small and mid cap category, which is why it actually uh, faces a bad character for itself, and especially when the markets are low. But I would say that the one which company which is a good investment, if you catch hold of that good investment, the upside it creates is also humongous. So I think if through the philosophy and efforts, if we are able to identify few of these good investments and make it part of the portfolio, then that creates, I would say, substantial alpha for the investor. So that is our endeavor, is what I would say.
Thank you, Vineet, for answering a question related to corporate governance. Definitely, you're a person who has a capability to pick up a potential multi-bagger, which in future become a large cap blue chip company. So when you create a portfolio, Vineet, definitely there is a allocation, multi-capitalization wise, and also a sector wise. So in these present circumstances, which is the sector which you are looking at? There's a lot of news about pharmaceutical companies doing good, but what is your strategy in sector allocation?
See, I would say that, so first of all, there are two ways I can answer this question. So one is that because of the COVID problem, which sectors are going to relatively look better? So let's say if it is the pharmaceutical is relatively better placed because they are still continuing to do their businesses at a slightly lower scale, but performing well. The essential commodities or the consumption, so the some of the FMCG companies are relatively doing better. The some of the low ticket discretionary probably will eventually do better. I think insurance companies should do slightly better. But this is the overall thought process from the COVID perspective. But I think the right way to think is that we will have to think beyond COVID. We'll have to think how each of these industries will normalize. Uh, how much time will each of them take? Some will be lagged. So the likes of multiplexes, the tourism based businesses, and all of those will take a while to return back. Some of them, as I said, some of the low ticket consumer items. So let's say, as an example, we have Bata in our fund. While today it may face challenges, but I'm saying that once you normalize, will people start going and buying these? I mean, will the demand impact be the negative impact will be slightly lower here because these are very low ticket items and affordability is better. So I would say that we have to think about how the economy opens up, what segments will gradually start looking well. And from the portfolio creation perspective, we have to have businesses which will do well in the current circumstances, and some of them which will eventually do well. So we still have automobiles in our segment. We still have some of the banks. Now I feel incrementally the every day the data point coming keeps indicating me that probably the recovery may take more time. But we are okay with the balance sheets of this company. We are okay with the overall profile of these companies, and we would say that our investments in the pharmaceutical and the others will likely to keep the performing part of the portfolio well, and the uncomfortable positions will add to the performance slightly later. So that's a okay balance to have. But we have always been slightly more contrarian, I could say, is that even if you look at the pharmaceutical sector investments, we were one of the few funds which had a higher exposure, not now, but almost starting 3 years back. And the reason for that was the pharma sector had also gone through a bit of a pain. And that was a time when nobody was willing to look at pharma because it was everyone were gung ho on FMCG, but pharma was more like neglected sector because of multiple problems it faced. We felt that there are still good companies within the pharma sector, and in recovery they may come out slightly better. So we invested there. So I think the portfolio rationality works on a different level. You have to think for the existing situation and also think beyond the current situation. There could be some uncomfortable investments which you have, but you have to have a right balance which allows you to keep a reasonable near-term performance while it doesn't lose track of your long-term picture.
Thanks, Vineet. In fact, the kind of insights which you give and the learning which we have is phenomenal. I think I can continue asking you questions, but I think with the limited time which you have given, I would like to open the question and answer session for everyone. And till the time the questions comes, I'll, for the benefit of all our clients and everyone, I would like to tell that Vineet is the most consistent fund manager in the mid cap and small cap space in India. His DSP mid cap fund is the #1 fund in the last 5 years. The DSP small cap in 10-year returns, it's the best performing. And it's not just about the being #1 or #2 in terms of the highest return. I think what is more important is, the consistency with which you deliver. And, the way you were explaining the pharma sector, which you have, picked much earlier. Right now, you have around 25–30% of your portfolio in pharma. I think that has done phenomenally well. So, hats off to you. We have one question from, Nikhil.
Yeah, Nikhil.
We need, Kalpin about 2 days back, and given his view to ED, and heading of the article is Indian MF play on stories of zero respect for valuations. And I'm sure you would have gone through that article. And in fact, in the article, it's clearly mentioned fund managers have zero respect for valuations. There is no correlation between PE and the pick of the fund managers. What's your take on that view of Kalpin?
So, see, I think whatever might have gone in his mind, he spoke then. But let me tell you, if you look at the world over statistics, there will be a few good investment professionals, I would say, not fund managers, let's say, but a few good investment professionals who follow core philosophy. And I think it is the consistency of following the core philosophy which is more critical than the performance itself, because performance is an outcome. Now, other than these, some of these few good investment personalities, I would say, many of them are mostly driven by the recency effect, driven by what's happening in the current environment. They get driven by the noise which is getting created right in the current environment, and that is something which where the outcomes is difficult to predict. They may be successful, they may be failures, but there is no one doesn't have any fundamental philosophy which one investors can think about as to why I should probably invest with that person. So I think these are the cases where probably the respect for valuations, respect for the fundamental picture is little less, and which is where I can sort of say that when we shut the small cap fund, when the valuations were looking very rich and expensive, that was a time when not say this, but the industry still kept accepting the flows in the small cap because money was coming in there. Investors were gung ho. But the money which came in the category in since 17, 18, I think that money has not seen return. So thankfully we stopped and we didn't take that money, and probably we created at least not a negative outcome for the new investors starting 2017. So I think one has to be careful about the philosophy. One has to be very clear about the thought process in which one is investing and how basically the returns are going to be generated for the investors. So I would sort of say that I don't know how much I've been able to articulate it exactly to probably what you were asking, but that's my thought.
Thank you, Vineet. Thanks for answering this. We have a question from Atit. He's a client in Mumbai.
Hi.
Hi, Vineet. Vineet, I wanted your update or feedback over what do you think about auto and the auto ancillaries, which have been beaten so badly across the last 1 year or so.
Yeah, so I think this is something which is hurting me as well, and I have been in both my funds, in my small cap and mid cap funds, I have a decent exposure in the automobile industry. My opinion is that the auto industry also goes through a cycle. So if you look at 25, 30 years data, there are, and each segment has a slightly different behavior in terms of the cycle. Two-wheeler has a different behavior. Passenger vehicle have been much more steady in the last 2 years. Commercial vehicles has a longish cycle, but by and large, they go through their cycles. And my feeling was that the automobile sector has gradually seen the impact of, so first of all, the auto sector has slowed down after a few years, and the reasons we all know, because of the change in the regulations and the increase in the cost and all of those issues, BS6 transition. So all this, and plus now whatever economy is going through, that has added to the problem. So my feeling was that like in the past, the auto would go through this cycle, and probably towards the end of this year, as the new BS6 transition takes place, people align to the new cost and wage grows, and we would see normalcy returning back, and things to be better. Now I just feel that this all gets slightly pushed ahead in terms of the growth metrics. I would say that for the auto industry to revive, we will have to first think how these some of the NBFCs, their challenge of liquidity is resolved. I mean, given is the fact that we have to see the economic stability coming back into action, plus we have to see the liquidity of these NBFCs also, the problem resolving there. Then we will see. So I would say that I'm still maintaining my position because the valuations are pretty decent for me in the auto sector. Secondly, the balance sheets of the auto companies are very, very sound. They have the better ability to sustain these tough times. And on the back of a very low base which is getting created, I believe that whenever normalcy returns back, on a normal, on a lower number which they will start showcasing, the growth rates will still look good because of the low base which is got created. So I am still keeping my hope alive and ready to wait a little longer is what I can say.
Thanks, Vineet. We have a last question. The last question is from Deepthi. Yeah.
Hi. I can't hear.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear. Hi.
Yeah, hi. Thank you. I mean, in the whole portfolio scenario, like for last few years, we have been accumulating small cap and mid cap. thinking that we'll get some extra advantage of being at least around 40% in the whole portfolio if we are invested in small cap and mid cap. And now in this current situation, there is a sense of, regret that if we would have just limited ourselves to large cap, then my portfolio would have been doing much better. And it is going to take a very long time, maybe 7, 8, 10 years before we recover the downside and go and then see some profits. What do you have to say? Because that's really worrisome.
So Dipti, I think you're right, and absolutely equity, the nature of equity is exactly this. Only thing is that it didn't display its true nature for the last few years, and it has displayed now in its full form. So I think this shock surprises is part of the equity game. Whenever you feel that this is a good category to be, I think that equity is going to probably prove you wrong. But I would say that in the spirit of my being very reasonable with with the overall thought process, and also just learning from my experiences, I think these narratives and these events are going to create a volatility. The best is to be very rational, be very aligned to the asset allocation, and not go overboard. So if you still have clients, Dipti, who have allocated very high amount and not understanding their own risk, I think it is better to reassess the risk. And if you feel like cutting the exposure, it's still a good decision to do. But if the allocation is reasonable, given the nature of the client, there are still some people who are, really excited about the small caps, and they are finding opportunity in this turmoil. So I would say for those type of people, it still is okay if they are having reasonable amount of exposure there, and not be overly worried is what I would say. When things turn is definitely not in anybody's hand. Only thing we can think about is that it, like you said, it gets pushed slightly ahead is what it looks like, and maybe this year is a challenging year, and hopefully if we, let's say, as an economy normalizes beyond that, if the government realizes that this is again a crisis which they should not allow it to go waste, and if they really do something which is worthwhile for the economy, then I think things can be much smoother also. But these things are something which you can't budget or tell the clients. You have to give them a slightly more the asset allocation perspective, and try to handhold the clients in such things.
Thank you, Vineet. I think we very rarely see a very young and dynamic head equities of an AMC like a large AMC like DSP. Thank you so much. I think your clarity of thoughts have really has really come out well. Similarly, we wish that the way a small cap becomes mid caps, and today's mid cap becomes tomorrow's large cap. We sincerely wish that you tomorrow become the biggest fund manager of the country, and I'm sure we all are looking towards that, given your clarity of thoughts. Thank you so much, Vineet, for taking out time, and I'm sure we'll come back to you again very soon for another webinar. Thank you all the clients, all partners, all well-wishers. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you, Vineet.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.